Can I tell you something a little bit shocking? I absolutely hate bug out bags. This idea that we are going to pack everything that we need into this giant bag to run out into the woods and build a fire and pitch a tent and have everything we need on our backs in an emergency situation. Now, I don't know about you. I consider myself in decent shape. I've been lifting weights, I've been running some. But if you used one of those bug out bag checklists that you can find online and you put everything in a bag, first of all, you probably don't have a bag big enough for all of the things that the experts say you need in a bug out bag. Second of all, if you could find a bag that big, I would challenge you to put that on your back and walk anywhere. When we read these bug out bag checklists, it is these laundry list of things that we are supposed to have to survive an emergency situation. Most of those, I would argue, are written by kind of this idea of lone survivor. You're going to pack everything again you need in your bag. You're going to head to the woods and you're going to live on your own for some amount of time until society either collapses completely or you can go back home safe and sound. Now, for most of us, that is not realistic. One, I don't want to live in the middle of the woods by myself for any length of time because quite frankly, it's terrifying. Second of all, having everything in one bag that you're going to use for 72 hours or 96 hours just isn't practical for most of us. Most of us aren't fit enough for that. We're not ready to live that way. And so today what I'm going to do is offer you an alternative to a bug out bag that I think is much more practical for most of us, particularly for those of us who live in suburban or urban areas, or even like me now here in Oklahoma in the middle of the woods. All right, let's start with the pack first. This is an Osprey brand women's hiking pack. So the reason I use this is partly because it can be dual purpose. I can actually use it for hiking in Colorado if I want to. But it also is specifically made for women, so it fits me a little bit better than just maybe one of the hiking packs for men off of the shelf. The reason I have a pack that is approximately this size is because it is a size that one holds most of the essentials that I need, but also is still in a size that I could carry for any length of time fully packed. When I pack this bag out, it is about 35 pounds before I put water in it. Now, I would probably carry between a gallon and a gallon and a half of water, so another 7 to 10-ish pounds. So you're talking about a 45-pound pack when this is fully loaded. Now, that's still a heavy pack if you never practice with it, but it's also appropriate for my weight, my size, and my fitness level. So when you are picking a pack, you want to pick something that you can actually hike in for a certain amount of distance. A good rule of thumb is you want to figure out how far away your most common places are. So for instance, work. If you go to work every day, there is a chance that if something happened, you would be there and not home. Now, work for me from my house in Colorado was like a 17-mile-ish hike. If I was stuck here in Oklahoma, you're talking more around 30 miles from town into where our house is. And so it would be a much longer kind of travel situation. We're going to talk about how I would break that down as we go. All right, we're going to break down what is in my pack kind of by category. So the first one is what I would just call shelter/temperature regulation. So in here, I have a raincoat that I have zip tied and then food savored into a small pouch. And that is just so that the raincoat is a little bit compressed. If I was going to take it with me, it wouldn't take up quite as much room. I have a little tarp that I could use either on the ground to kind of give me a layer of protection or string up over a piece of my 550 cord to make kind of a little shelter. I have what they call a little life bivvy. This is Mylar material. That is those really thin kind of silver looking blanket material that you can get. The nice thing about Mylar is it packs really small and it actually has really good insulation properties. And so I just have a little Mylar, what they call a life bivvy. This again would be kind of a tent sort of scenario, or you can just wrap it around you like a big blanket and it helps maintain warmth if you are out in the elements. I also have a little tiny comfort pillow because if I'm going to be sleeping in the middle of the woods or on the side of the road while I'm hiking from work to home, I want to be comfortable. Is this necessary? Of course not. This is a total want to have, not a need to have. It was also something I had in my camping supplies, so I tossed it in my emergency bag, and when I use it for camping, I just pull it out. I also have a little tiny silky saw. This is to cut small twigs, small limbs, small branches if I needed to start a fire. And then I have my ferro rod so that I could start a fire. And yes, I have practiced with this so that I know how to do it. Again, anything that you have in your emergency bag, you want to make sure you practice with so you know how to use it in an emergency situation. And of course, my trusty lighter, because you know that if I'm going to make fire, I would much rather do it with a Bic lighter than with a ferro rod. The ferro rod is the emergency. This is the first line of defense. Making a fire, I'm going to light anything I am using with my Bic and not with a ferro rod. So the idea behind all of these items really is just to be able to kind of control my temperature in an emergency situation. When you are out in the stuff, you want to be able to either cover yourself up from the sun and or keep yourself warm in extreme temperatures. So this is kind of how I would hunker down if I had to stay out overnight. Now, I want to be very clear. My get home bag is not really designed to stay out for any length of time. It is literally just designed to get me from an emergency situation back to my house. So again, I don't have a big tent. I don't have a sleeping bag. I don't have anything like that. This is, no kidding, the bare essentials. This would not be comfortable. This is not how I'd want to stay for any length of time, but it would give me protection from the elements in an emergency situation. That's my water, my dog drinking water. Still drinking water. Sorry about that. So again, this is not designed to be comfortable camping equipment. This is really literally just survival gear to keep you warm and out of the elements in an emergency situation. The next thing that I have in my get home bag is just stuff for water. So again, you know, hydration is critically important. And so I probably err on the side of being a little over prepared for my water situation. So first I have a clean canteen. This is just a single walled metal bottle. The advantage of a single walled metal bottle like this is that you can heat it up in a fire. If my only option was to boil water, this would give me a way to do that pretty easily. I also have another way to boil water, which I'll show you in a minute. But this is literally just a water bottle, or it can just be used as what I'm drinking out of once I have filtered my water in some of these other containers. The second thing that I have is just my Sawyer Squeeze mini filter. This is just a filter kind of situation where you can get water from puddles, from ponds, from streams, from lakes, etc., and you can filter it out so that you can use it to drink. I do have a couple of collapsible water bottles in my water stuff. That is so that as you are filtering, you can either pick water up with one of these and then squirt it into the squeeze, or you can squirt from there into one of the water bottles. Again, this just gives me extra water storage in an emergency. And then don't forget, I also have a water bladder on the back of my pack that I could use also to carry water. So I'm not limited to just what's in these pouches. One of the things I do love about these little collapsible pouches is this one is one that you can just put on your hand or your wrist so you can have it with you. This one has a little carabiner on the end of it like this, so you can just hang it off the outside of your pack. Again, it gives you some external ways to carry water outside of the pack, and is just another option and some backup because you don't want to be caught without water. I also have a simple life straw. This is if I just wanted to stick it in the water and literally drink straight from it. If I was at a water source where maybe it wasn't big enough to really scoop up and put in a water bottle, this just gives me another way to collect water and filter it so that I could get water from pretty much any source that I came across. Finally, I have some chemical tablets. These help clarify water. My personal choice is to filter versus using chemical tabs, but these micro-pure tablets would also help me purify water if I needed it in an emergency situation. And then the last thing I have in my water kit is just this little wrench. This is actually good to open up spigots on most community and public water systems. Now, I would not recommend using this unless you are, no kidding, in a emergency, pretty much life and death kind of situation. You can open up city water things with this, have access to clean, in theory, potable water, and then obviously turn it off before you leave so that you're not wasting all that water. But it does give you another way to access water in emergency situations. And so that is kind of my water setup for my pack. The next set of items that I carry in my pack is food. And so we've talked a little bit about this. You want a couple of different options. So you heard me mention a minute ago, I have a second way to boil water. That is literally just my little MSR camp stove. These are super popular in the backpacking and hiking community. You can store the fuel inside of your little kind of thermos here. This is great for boiling water. Also, I usually pack a freeze-dried meal or maybe two in my backpack, which I'll talk about in a second. I don't leave them in here, but I would carry them with me. This is also great to cook any kind of freeze-dried meals that you might have with you. And so I just keep my fuel canister in there, my little stove burner, and then another Bic lighter for emergency situations, because again, you want to have access to fire for purifying water and cooking. Then I also have just some quick energy chews. These are just little energy chews that have a little bit of caffeine in them, a lot of sugar. They are just meant to give you a little boost of energy. If I was only going a little ways, I would probably use these versus trying to break out some of my larger food items. Again, just a great little snack. I use them when I do like triathlon training and running, and so I'm used to eating them. If you're going to use like something like this in your pack, make sure that you have tested it and that your stomach will handle them well. You don't want to be eating things that you don't know your stomach can handle. I also keep a little Gatorade pouch in there just for electrolytes, so that if I feel like I'm getting dehydrated in warm weather, I could replenish electrolytes in an emergency. Which leads me to my little mini packs of food. These just have things like tuna energy bars, some dried fruit, and a little thing of coffee because, you know, coffee is important. And the idea behind these is not that they would be a great gourmet meals in an emergency situation, but that they would give me enough calories, again, to be able to go for a day or two if I needed to out of this pack. I also have a couple of Mountain House meals that I keep in my car for emergency situations. If I was grabbing this bag and I knew I was going to be going somewhere, particularly if I knew I wasn't going to be able to get home in the next 3, 4, or 5 hours, I would probably grab a couple of those Mountain House meals and put those in my pack as well. I just choose not to store extra ones in my car because there is a lot of temperature variation and I figure it kind of reduces shelf life over time. So you would just grab the ones that are in my car to put in my go bag. All right, so after food and water, I just have a little tiny medical kit. This is what I would really call just a boo-boo kit, right? So this is just basic injuries. It's stuff for like blisters, minor cuts and scrapes and abrasions. I'm not going to treat any kind of major medical injury with this pack. If you have medical training and if you feel like that is something you want to put in your pack, by all means, you could put a few more medical things in there. A tourniquet's always a great idea. Celox or quick drying clot stuff is always a good idea for something kind of a bleeding type of wound. Again, the idea for me was just to be able to treat minor injuries. I'm not going to be able to treat significant trauma. But when you are talking about a bag that is just going to be used to get from point A to point B, and hopefully the same day, but at the very least in 2 days, you probably don't necessarily need a trauma kit, again, unless you have the medical training and you just feel like that is something you want to have on your person. The next round of items are what I'm going to call my sanitation and kind of health items. I have a little pack here which has my Kula cloth normally in it, my little scooper in case I need to dig a little latrine, and then also some little toilet paper wipes. I've just looked at these on other videos. They're basically just little coins that you get wet and they kind of turn into toilet paper. Now, you'd want to pack those out or at least bury them very deeply. Again, if you're going by leave no trace principles, you want to take those out with you. They don't biodegrade very well, but I would be able to go to the restroom and have emergency supplies. And then I would put those in my Ziploc bags that I carry with me and I would just pack it out, being a good steward of the environment. Again, depends on your kind of philosophy on how you manage that. I also have my Shiwi, which I've talked about before. This just gives women a way to go to the restroom without having to completely expose yourself. If you are traveling in urban or suburban areas, this may be a great addition to your pack. I also carry a toothbrush and toothpaste. To be honest, this is just one of those mental health comfort items. I want to be able to brush my teeth at the end of the night and in the morning when I wake up. If for some reason I had to stay out, I'm guessing I wouldn't sleep particularly well. I would be stressed. It's just a way to make me feel a little bit better, which is exactly why I have a little thing of deodorant and some wipes. Do you need these? Absolutely not. Do you want them? I don't know. Maybe if you like showers as much as me, you would want some wipes and deodorant. So this is completely personal. I know I'm going to get comments on this video about some of the things I have in my bag. So here is what I'm going to say right now. What you put in your bag is very personal. Think about shelter, think about food, think about water, think about safety and medical stuff. Think about how you are going to communicate with the outside world. You don't need everything I have in this bag. You don't need all of the same stuff. You don't need deodorant and wipes, but you want to pack the things that are going to make you feel like you are in control of your situation in an emergency. All right, the rest of this stuff is kind of a mishmash of things. So the first thing is just lighting. So I have a flashlight and a headlamp. You know, I'm in love with headlamps because it allows you to have light without having to have your hands full, which can be really important. This one also has a red light cover, which if you don't know, that just helps preserve your night vision. So if you are out at night and you need light, but you don't want to basically blind yourself, if you have this little red light, it will allow you to see a little bit better. And it's also a little less obvious that you are out in the middle of the woods. So if you're trying to be a little bit more cautious or stealthy, having a little red light cover is also something that can be really useful versus flashing a big flashlight beam. So I always carry a flashlight and a headlamp, extra batteries for both. So I just keep those in a Ziploc. We rotate these every year or so to make sure that they are good. But that way I always have lighting because quite frankly, that's important to me, especially as a female who thinks I could be potentially traveling by myself at some point. I also have my little titanium spork / spoon. This is for me if I'm bringing those Mountain House meals along and I want to be able to stir the food. This is something that really goes with my food supplies, but I kind of keep it mixed in here with some of the other gear that I carry on a regular basis. I also have a whistle. This is just for emergencies. So let's say I was trying to get home and either one, I felt threatened and I was trying to draw attention so that other people would come and help me. I have a whistle. Or if you are trying to get the attention of emergency responders, if something kind of bad happens, you can use this whistle to just help people locate you. And that is super important. I would literally wear this around my neck if I was in an emergency situation, so I had easy access to it at all times. I also have duct tape because you just don't go anywhere without duct tape. All right, the next few things are going to get me lots of comments, I'm sure. I have a little notebook and a little pen. So the reason I have this is one, yes, so I can take notes and doodle and write to myself and keep myself entertained, but also it's great if you need to leave a note for emergency responders or family members. If you are traveling somewhere and you know that someone's going to be coming along behind you, this is a great thing just to have with you so that you can make sure they know where you are at all times. And a deck of cards, because if I'm stuck by myself, I may want to be entertained. You'll notice they haven't even been opened yet. And the last two things are for communication. One is just a battery bank. And so I would use this to honestly keep my cell phone charged. So I make sure that I charge this about once a quarter so that it's always ready to go. But this is just something to have so that my cell phone in theory could always be charged while I was on the go. I have all the cords here in a little pouch. I just keep this all together. And that way I could always have access to communication. And then I also have my little emergency radio. This does have a wind up. In theory, you can charge your phone off this as well, but you'd have to crank for a really long time. Additionally, this little radio is solar powered, so I could clip it to the outside of my pack if I was walking somewhere in the sunlight, and this would continue to charge. I can also charge this off of regular batteries and my power bank. So a good little multi-purpose radio to listen to emergency weather forecast or kind of the emergency radio stuff if something is going on inside your local area could be really helpful so that you are just staying aware. So those are the things that I carry in my pack. I will put links below if you are looking for something. You can go on Amazon. Those are affiliate links. So if you click them, it's no extra charge to you, but it helps me earn a little bit of money. So if there's something in this video that you're like, hey, I wouldn't mind having that, you can just click the link below and go ahead and get those items right there. Additionally, here is what I would just say. Pack a bag that you know that you can carry that has the things that you want in it. Again, some of these items are very personal to what I would want to have in an emergency situation. Some of them may not be practical for you. Don't just take this list and run with it. Really make this bag your own.